the shadow of Corpus Christi's rapid growth, the Molina addition was born in the late 1940s. Built on land once belonging to Susano Molina, the neighborhood became a refuge for Mexican-American and African-American families seeking affordable homes after World War II, and everyday life carried both hardship and resilience. Residents still built a culture rich in music, faith, and solidarity. This is where Molina's story begins, on the western edge of the city, a place both isolated and alive with community spirit.
I remember this place since before I moved here because my grandmother lived here, and there was really nothing. It was just trees and like a forest in her house right there.
Mr. Susano Molina, a rancher, and he owned all this land. It was bought up by Mr. Paul Cox, a land company, and they built these homes. So some of the homes, because of the expense, they would be partially done and others were more fully done.
And we got to think that in 1946, this was right after the end of World War II. African-American soldiers are coming back to Corpus Christi. It was a booming industrial city, Corpus Christi was. The north side, where African-Americans typically live, started to become overcrowded. But after World War II, what we see is a lot of these Mexican-Americans finally, with some means to own their own land, they move out to these homes that the Paul Cox Land Company was selling.
My father, Francisco, and Olivia, they bought a little house, a two-room house here on Molina Street. And we lived there since 1946.
They were all like little square boxes. There's a little living area in the kitchen. You go straight through, there's only one restroom with a tub. Yeah, on this side would be the master bedroom, which was my parents, and in the back would be, the other bedroom.
We had a nice little casita full of love. All our neighbors pretty much had the same. I couldn't differentiate if anyone was better off than we were or not.
As we were raised in Molina, the one thing that stands out is that we always have what we needed. We never were without. Thankfully for our parents, they made sure that we were never left empty.
You're young, you really don't know what hardship is. So growing up poor, now that, I'm an adult, knowing, we really didn't have very much at the time.
Molina, it was a relatively close-knit community, the barrio, where the neighbors were like family. Everyone took care of each other.
Everybody knew who you were. Everybody knew your parents. The neighborhood raised the kids. It was a village. People still sat outside. The neighbors knew each other. The neighbors hung out with each other, partied and things like that.
I just remember there was a lot of freedom. We'd ride our bikes. We would go to the neighbor's house. A fun place to grow up when I was young.
All our streets back then had ditches. And when it rained, everybody got out and had fun. So that was our own personal swimming pool.
And it was your typical Leave It to Beaver type neighborhood. We all had bikes, and we would play in the driveway. We would ride our bikes down the street.
I spent from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. in the Molina neighborhood, not only at school, but the free lunch program, summer school, hanging out with my friends, skateboarding.
The whole neighborhood played together. Those were remarkable, fun times that we had.
Great place to live, to be raised in. And like I said, we were never lacking. We always had what we needed.
Molina was built by the hands of immigrants, laborers, and families who carried pride in every brick and beam. Side by side, neighbors shaped this community with hard work, sacrifice, and the dream for their children's education. Their legacy lives on through the generations they raised.
Our parents built this community, and they did a good job because there's a lot of pride in Molina, a lot of pride.
They're all hardworking, blue-collar workers, good work ethic. You want to know who built the neighborhood? It's people like my dad, who had a sixth grade education, but learned how to read blueprints on his own. He knew he wanted better.
The community was built by the people of the barrio.
like my dad, who bought a house that had 3 rooms, and by 3 rooms I mean a bedroom, a kitchen, a living room, and that's it, no bathroom. Literally, the people built Molina, the individual families that built Molina. It wasn't one person.
You got one side of the neighborhood is black predominantly, and then the other side of the neighborhood is predominantly Hispanic. So those 2 cultures of people pretty much built the neighborhood.
Members in our community are parents that were strong, hardworking families.
They wanted their sons and daughters to get educated, and they would send us out, and there was a gentleman on KUNO, Victor Laroteon. Every morning we'd be listening to KUNO, and Mr. Victor Laroteon later became a good friend of mine, would say, levántanse, get up, mándelos a la escuela, send them to school. No tienen faja, they don't have a belt, put a shoelace or something, send them to school.
We had a lot of voices going through there, past, present, and future. But I think our parents were the ones that out there that stayed in this community.
Passed the torch of Molina and its history through their kids and their kids' kids. Those, I feel, are our heroes in sharing the legacy of our neighborhood.
Outsiders called Molina poor, dirty, forgotten. But inside, families turned insult into strength, shaping a culture of resilience and pride.
The stereotyping growing up, I believe that it stemmed from folks that did not live in our community, outsiders.
Predominantly black, predominantly Hispanic, low income, poverty in some places, so just off of that alone, they have a stereotype of who they think you are.
Suddenly, when you have these people who are already segregated in their city and then further pushed aside or further moved out of the bounds of the city, that already kind of made them seem like a little bit more of the other.
We were landlocked, and a lot of people would stereotype us as because you don't have streets, curbs, gutters, you have to go to the outhouse, you got to do this and that, the other. No, they kind of looked at us like we were from a third world country.
Additionally, there was a landfill that separated Molina from Corpus Christi.
The comments that would be made, and we could hear them, we weren't deaf. Molina stinks, or Westoso, pestoso, and it would hurt.
But they don't understand the culture, the family, the closeness and things like that.
And whenever we went anywhere, we were traveling school buses anywhere. Obviously, we always had that people looking at us in a funny way.
For some people, they say ignorance is bliss. Well, it might be bliss for somebody else. But for the people that lived in here, that were from Molina, that went to the West Oso schools, it wasn't nice.
The pride of being from that neighborhood was unlike being from Corpus Christi. If you're going to say we're different, we will be different. And so it was this really remarkable moment of people saying, yeah, okay, fine, we'll do that. We'll take these insults and we'll own them, and we will, become successful regardless of these opinions that you have.
That just gave us more resolve to be able to do all the necessary things, especially in the field of education, because we knew that was the key for a better future.
Outsiders don't know exactly what goes on inside, but what helps is some of our people leave Molina, go to the outside, and help clear up that stereotype.
Molina's past was built by hardworking families. Too much of it is forgotten. Now the challenge is to keep the history alive for future generations.
The history of Molina is lost to too many of our youngsters. They didn't know it, or they don't know it that well, because this is a hard working class community. There was a lot of strong arms and strong backs and big layers and on that were doing some great things throughout the city and beyond. So, that was one of the things that bothered us. But again, you got to have that resolve to do better.
Our kids now, they don't know about the past of Molina or how we grew up. They just know now that it's nice. They have nicer homes and all that. Even the old homes that we had in Molina, Barrera, and Ancan, and all those streets, Elvira, they're remodel their homes, so they need to know how their grandparents, not their mom and dad, the grandparents lived.
We have extraordinary people that came out of Molina, well educated. We have doctors, lawyers.
You know, Molina used to have its own bakery. I'm old enough to remember it had its own bakery, it had its own barbershop, it had its own grocery store. I mean, it had everything, you know, back in the day. It's part of who we are, and if we don't know ourselves, then we don't really progress as a society. You know, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you're coming from.
A lot of that legacy, I think, is being lost little by little. As that generation dies away, it's kind of hard to keep that sort of strength and character.
As time went on, people started moving away, and our kids didn't get to know the real, true history of Molina.
For a lot of community histories, most of it is lost. And especially if it's a community that includes ethnic Mexicans and African Americans. A big lesson I like to teach my students is no one is just going to write your community history for you. You have to be the one to do it. And if you do write this history, you have to be ready to engage in conversation with people who might have a different memory of it. In a way, yeah, it has been lost, but there's something hopeful about that.
With kids glued to screens and moving away, pride in the neighborhood fades. Voices here push to bring history back before it slips away.
Kind of what's going on everywhere, you know, especially for kids. They're all stuck inside on video games. You know, they're stuck inside on computers and devices and things like that. Kids don't go outside, so they don't get that sense of culture, that sense of neighborhood, that ownership, you know, and there's no pride because they don't know the next door neighbors or the kids down the street or the kids around the corner. You know, the parents and the community don't know those kids. You know, when that happens, you kind of lose a sense of what the neighborhood is. And when you get that, the kids grow up and they don't feel the need or the sense to stay there. My kids and their generation and their friends, they can't wait to get out because they don't understand the pride that goes into the neighborhood. Then they leave it to other people, you know. And eventually what happens with that is you get what happened on the north side. They take your community from you completely, you know.
That parents should inform their children and educate them as to what, you know, everything that people went through in this neighborhood that made us be strong as a neighborhood and as neighbors.
A group built of youth, you know, people my age, somebody older than me, to work with the local community, the school community, and have something in place that shows our history. And of course, that's going to be a living history.
There's more to us than just a stigma. We're a prideful neighborhood, very, very prideful neighborhood, not ashamed of it at all. But we're also a community that has evolved. And I think that's how we don't forget who we are. We evolve.
There's nothing like the oral histories that can be passed down from generation to generation that enrich that family, that block of Molina and the West Social Independent School District.
From separate buses to divided neighborhoods, racism left deep marks here. The fight for equality isn't history. It's still happening today.
There was racism. I remember when I was little in school, because West Oso started at Cudahy Field. That's where I went to first grade. And then in second grade, I came here to Molina. And I used to tell my girls that when we would ride the bus, there were different buses, one for the colored people and one for us. But then later, in the 60s, we were all together.
All my kids are interracial. You know, back then, I remember calling girls' houses and dads either knowing because I was a boy they was hanging up or because I was black. They don't call here no more, you know? And back then, you still had some of that. Now it's kind of like, you move around the neighborhood, you see a lot of interracial dating and things like that. So coming from outside the community when they look at the Molina area, the West Oso area, and who they think we are.
In Molina, back in the day when I was young, we had a side that had African American people living there, and you had Hispanics living on the other side. And as I grew up, they kind of intermingled. There was never any animosity at all that I remember, but that was just the way it was.
No Mexicans, only whites. That was right here. This was in this area. We still feel it. And I think we need to get the young people to understand that we are still fighting a fight. That's the message. The fight's still there. You know, the characters have changed. We just need young fighters. Some of us are getting ready to retire.
Like any neighborhood, Molina faced crime. But what defined it was neighbors uniting, protecting each other, and providing community stronger than fear.
We had crime in this community like any other community. But what I do know is that there was a lot of great efforts that really curtailed some of that. A group of block captains, real close communication with the Corpus Christi Police Department and the police chief, and so we had regular meetings. You know, I think it made a big difference because everybody knew that we cared enough about ourselves that we didn't want our properties destroyed or vandalized.
You know, people talking to one another, communication with our neighbors, communication with the city. Be proactive. See these guys when they start walking around, have some patrols around. You know, that in itself is going to help remedy the situation.
Today, the marks of struggle are still visible. Residents face disconnection, carrying the weight of decisions made decades before. These everyday challenges are more than personal hardships.
I would say that the biggest struggles that can impact our kids and our grandkids of tomorrow is the lack of direct supervision to our children, where both parents have to get up and go to work to provide for their families. And so that is something that is of great concern, and we've seen it.
Yes, it is important that parents should be aware of what their kids do, day and night, because I was like that. Not because my son was 18 or 16, he was gonna be in the street till late at night. Oh no, I'll go get you.
The disconnection is that a lot of people moved away. A lot of people moved away to Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. So now we have people that we don't know or are not familiar with. And before it wasn't like that. Everybody knew everybody.
Parents are reluctant to want to let their children embellish youth. And that's one thing that we as an organization have been wanting to do, because our charter is to do youth development. Our charter is to do childcare. And we sit there and we go, okay, let's get them educated.
Education, 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 love, love, and more love.
Molina is not only a story of struggle, it is also a story of voices that refuse to be silenced. Today, that same spirit continues in local activism, in education, and in the families who proudly call Molina home. These are the voices reclaiming the narrative and passing it to the new generation.
You get involved first, learning to take care of your neighborhood.
I go walking a lot for my health and to walk my dog. But as I go, I see litter. I take my trash bag and I pick it up. And it makes a big difference, because let me tell you, in 1 week, that street full of litter is clean because I did it.
Too many people from Molina leave Molina and forget they're from Molina. They go off to other cities, they go off to different universities and never come back, and kind of try to erase that history, that part of their history. And that's an absolute shame. So we started the Education Foundation about a year ago, and that is to highlight some of the graduates of West Oso who grew up in Molina and the positive impact that they're making in their own lives, but back to their community.
I get involved with the school board because my husband and I, we attend. We're from here in West Oso. I'm very proud of it.
And I hate to feel that There are kids growing up in Molina today and going to West Oso today that do not have role models, that there are people from that community who have done really, really well. One thing that we started with my family after my parents passed, we started a scholarship in their name. And so for 5 years now, we've been giving $25,000 a year to West Oso grads to further their education and to prove the point that West Oso grads can leave and don't forget their roots. They don't forget where they grew up, and they're investing back in the community. Thus far, like, we've given $120,000 or so back to West Oso over the last 5 years. And we're committed to give another $100,000, $120,000 for the next 5 years. And that's aside from, I'm co-chair of the Education Foundation, and I'm spending, 5-10 hours a month doing nothing but helping West Oso.
So the call to activism is, don't forget that. Let's go back out and reignite the fire in some of the kids out here that say, you have a heritage. This is your heritage. You may call it what you want, but you inherited this, and you didn't get here without somebody else's blood, sweat, and tears.
Doctors, lawyers, artists, Molina has produced leaders, but their greatest legacy is pride, passed on to the next generation to carry forward.
There's a lot of people that come out of Molina that have done great, have been successful. We have attorneys, we have doctors.
The people who came out of this neighborhood that made it, the Adrian Cartwells, the Salinas, the DeAndre Fillmores, and the Jerry Davises, and so on and so on. There's a lot of people who come out this neighborhood. My aunt, she's the AD at West Oso, she's a graduate from West Oso. She's out the neighborhood, and that's a lot of that, but if the kids don't know, then there's nobody to pass on the stories 10, 15 years from now.
We are very knowledgeable and educated people. And no matter what others may say, like our parents taught us, education was the way out. I think every one of our kids in West Oso has that opportunity to decide what they want. If you don't try your best, then someone's going to decide for you.
Doesn't matter what your background looks like. You can be Molina, or you can be Greenwood, because this is all the west side. You can be anywhere out there. What matters is where you're going to go.
Our history can be carried forward by each and every one in our community.
And I'm looking forward to the next generation of the younger people, new ideas. It's different. The way they think, the way they do things, different. And I look forward to be a part of helping them or guide them so they can be successful and still have pride in Molina.
How long does it take to turn an aircraft carrier around? A long time. And this ship has been turning for a long, long time. That's the changes we need here.
Just make sure your kids know who came before them and make them understand why it's important for them to know the stories and to pass on the stories, and build on the legacy that's been left, even though the neighborhood is getting old, the love is still there, and if there's nobody here to tell the stories, right, and there's nobody here to push the kids to do better, then everything would be forgotten.
The future of Molina belongs to its next generation, who will carry the pride, the stories, and the hope forward. This is not just the history of a neighborhood. It is the living heartbeat of a community determined to be seen.
People that lived here, that grew up here, always talk good about Molina. I'm 63 years old, and to this day, we still talk about how we grew up here. If somebody says anything bad, we stop them in the track real quick. It's not true. You don't live there, you don't know that. You don't know what it is to live in Molina. We respect our neighborhood. They need to respect our neighborhood, and we make sure they respect it.
The neighbor that moved next door to me, she used to live in Flower Bluff, and she moved over here about 2 years ago. And she tells me, I love it here. I'm never going to move from here. Yeah, everybody's nice. I have the same neighbors I've had for many years.
I'm not afraid to walk my grandbaby down the street. We go by. Hey, how are you? If there's somebody new, hey, hi, my name is Phil. we're people first.
To me, sometimes they come and they say, "You still live in Molina?" I mean, why would you live in Molina? I said, I was born and raised there. I know the people. I know every one of them there.
Everybody has pride. Everybody says, we're from Motown. My brother David used to say, Molina, Texas.
We live life here simple and pretty much carefree. We strive to do for our families. We strive to do for our community. And, we'll grow old like I am and, keep on doing it. And hopefully, we have some youth to follow behind us.
Even people that I know from other neighborhoods, they say, you guys are different. I said, no, we're not different. We're just together. We're familia.